I shall now take you to the graphic Business-Stanbic Bank Breakfast Meeting under the theme, The Commute Job, Why Resetting the Urban Transport System is an Economic Necessity. We'll take you to Labadi Beach now.
Sector. Sit with them for them to also at least contribute to the discussion. They know the cars that can be used for that job. If not, the government will bring in more cars, and in less than 1 year, we'll go back to the same situation. The only easy thing that can be done now to ease that congestion is for government to have other means, which the train system should also come on board. But we don't think it will be today or tomorrow.
System sometimes say yeah, say benya car. Now at the same time, no traffic. Say government bemu or traffic ni mo. Ne transport ni po ye break akra na enya po a ye nim say okay. But yen share private cars any government so there. Government didn't need nyina die egu. And the private deal so. Government dey bad no all ya fa ne transportation. That means the government or the big bar. Only say and I say the government
if the train system starts working, it will ease a lot of traffic congestion. It will ease the inconveniences our commuters face. Firstly, when I was growing up, if you go to the train station, you'll be there. If you are going to Achimota, you are going to Isawam, you are going outside Amasaman, then things you will be in the train within the shortest possible time, then you are done. But right now, the train system is not working. And the government usually bring buses, whereas it's very costly. So if there will be a transport system, whereas the government will bring inside, we play to the government that the amount that will be charged on those transports should come a little bit lesser in order for us to purchase those vehicles to be in the system.
Yeah, two lot of things in this is here be biabo cost. And not sure say kita economy pa. It's about turn in no boy ni me bi na yenso ye boana. Bibia be conform. Nemo just papers for no to turn near man send you omo pen no, omo pen no. Na nso ye hyen so ahomete a. E ma nipa bebre na nyi so mbe ye adwuma no. Because if so bia ye adwuma open pa so kakra. Nemo be kwakoto car no be adwuma na car no be say na sika wunya e, utumi fa nkoto engine sim no. Hwan na odon so nya sika fufuro bi obeba be toka. Pensioner bi ko pension na aka so open sika nkoto ko kwakoto. Onko if is adwuma na say tini edikan aban sweepers for no omutrimo dene ukoto ade nne ade kodro na wo ntoro fe mu no so be kono watum so de wo lore fe ne yenye den yentum na wo mfa so kakra na be koso no na no na e koshem to hwe ho no no hwe madro afo bia ko station na ye be boa ama ye nyina ya boa ma na koso then the traffic ba yaye market ama adwadifo se driver ni kai ese kwan wo se sia em ba beto na ko enso dwadini de why market in AM be show. Ti we nyina yo how adrawafo ye famu pa da bia ye nya na ka mo ba be ka tire ma ya ka ama ban ate. Nansen wo be hwa aban ye na adwen se assemblies ni ye na adwen se omo pamo ma na free kwan ho no. Traffic no adam ama ye watintin ye be sere mo ma nye nansan adwuma. Omo ma nto aso na nkosoro ma ye nso ye free. Na me wogidie se cars no flow kobatimi kobantam a upon adwuma obedru fie ntam nipa ne nguo bebre omo pe cars a driver ne ntimi mo apo me nkasa ye o bet nipa ne nguo a obe ya utimi mo apo no na me ko banze nipa ne guo na onya car eno na driver bia oni suban no oduru ho a ebo bia ope no na ogina nipa no so de ahomete den free say wajina ho ache ti abasra mo nka mi man ni ehia yen kese ade tonfo na wo kwan ho no omomomodin ampe ba bi mom ukọ mokola inside ho nyina eguo no mo begu kwan ho ene adrawafo na omo so mo ayo madwen so omo de se ye nyina ba boy no wo ha na ye nyina ba edwuma wo ha na obi ya de nya ya ka kire no no omo mba omo de omo pe kwan ho tomu na no mo ye ne enye no medicine taban so mo aye no mo so mra ha na ye nyina ye ntena se ne ye nyina ye chechire Ghana no ma Ghana nkoso
That was actually a fantastic video documentary that you watch there. That part, the aspect where the operator said, "Mobuni thoughts," is something all of us might have experienced, where the transport operators decide to go short journeys in order to make more profits to the disadvantage of the commuters. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's first Graphic Business-Stanbic Bank Breakfast Meeting for the year 2026. I'd like to first of all begin by saying good morning to distinguished guests, colleagues from financial sector, transport operators, policymakers, and our viewers joining us live on Facebook pages of Stanbic Bank and Daily Graphic. We're also live on the Joy News channel and also on our YouTube pages and Facebook page on Joy News. And wherever you are across the world, we will tell you that indeed today is going to be an insightful session which is going to focus on several aspects of the transportation sector. Today's conversation is not about traffic. It is not about trotro. It's not even about roads. It's about productivity. It is about capital efficiency. It's about whether Ghana competes in a rapidly urbanizing Africa. As of 2026, over 58% of Ghana's population lives in urban areas. Accra alone absorbs thousands of new commuters annually. Yet studies continue to show that congestion in major cities costs economies between 2% and 5% of GDP due to lost productivity, fuel inefficiency, and delayed logistics. And this is a very eminent question every business person is confronted with. Now, the question is quite simple. When transport fails, does our economic growth also stall? Do we see stagnation in terms of our profitability as a business? Do we experience worker turnout in terms of numbers? What is the way forward? This reaffirms today's theme, which is basically resetting Ghana's urban transport system. Is it a necessity? This is the question we are asking ourselves this morning. And so, once again, I'd like to welcome all of you this morning to the Graphic Business-Stanbic Bank Breakfast Meeting. And without much ado, I would like to call on the Executive Head and Board Brand and Marketing at Stanbic Bank to give us the opening remarks in the person of Mawoko Afajenu. Please put a round of applause. Help me welcome you. You can do better.
Thank you very much, Winston. I actually have 3 pages here, so I'm not sure this can be opening remarks. It's more than opening remarks. Distinguished guests, colleagues, partners, good morning. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Stanbic Graphic Business Breakfast Meeting for the first quarter of 2026. Stanbic Bank's partnership with Graphic Business is anchored in a shared commitment to provide meaningful thought leadership and practical solutions to the most pressing challenges confronting our nation. This was brought us together this morning. Our theme, resetting Ghana's urban transport system, is an economic necessity. It's a deep one. It reflects an issue that touches every Ghanaian household, every business, and every sector of our economy. It's a topic that speaks directly to productivity, national competitiveness, and of course, our collective economic future. Talking about this theme actually brings to me flashes of when I was growing up as a kid in Ghana. And those are memories that feed into a dream. Because back then at Foyo, now known as North Kaneshi, there was a bus 4B, I remember. And that's just in front of Fan Milk, where I believe the TV station still is. And there was a bus stop. And that bus stop actually had a timetable there, indicative of when buses would arrive. Ghana, many, many years ago. And it was free for school children. So I get to sit on the bus for free and take a ride to Opera Square, where the buses terminated in Ghana. So many years after, several decades after, we look at that and we're wondering, how did they all go so pear-shaped? And that is what we'll be discussing today. The reason why that's important is that was a couple of decades back. There was a system that allowed you to plan. You get out of your home, you know you have to get to work by 8:30, and the bus, you are sure, would arrive at maybe 8 o'clock. And because sometimes there is a 5-minute delay or a 10-minute delay, you go a little early, but you know that in 40 minutes you are at your office, which is not so far-fetched from what has been enhanced in so many countries around us. And for those of you with the benefit of traveling, you go to the UK, the train is late for 2 minutes or the bus is late for 5 minutes, and there is a whole apology. Sorry for the 2-minute delay. Imagine planning your journey, your day with a trotro, a taxi, or even an Uber. Recently, there was a video that went viral about a very important friend of Ghana, who is nearly a Ghanaian by Nigerian. I'll mention his name. Those who haven't seen the video, go and look for it. Who was traveling for an event. He needed to attend the funeral of a friend of his in Liberia. And the traffic was so bad, he needed to jump on the back of an Okada to make it to the airport. And of course, as is the norm today, he took a video of himself, shared it on Twitter, on X, and we all saw it. But it speaks to an endemic issue that hopefully today we can help uncrack, unravel, and deal with. And you know, this anecdotal observation is just symptomatic of something deeper. A transport ecosystem so stretched, so thin, that even with fewer commercial vehicles on the road, the traffic still does not ease. That's not normal. It's a sign of a deeply embedded systemic weaknesses that we have to address. Ghanaians are waiting longer by the roadside. I mean, we heard the stories from Christmas. And when it happens like that, there are numerous interpretations and points of view. But Christmas was a very difficult time. We thought it was seasonal. It entered into the new year. We all started talking about it in January. It's February. And as usual, other things have taken our attention. Today is the opportunity to refocus. And we see that this paradox is actually compelling us to confront a truth. A study published recently, I believe 2 or so weeks ago by Glimmer Research, estimates that traffic congestion is costing Ghana's economy about 4.5 billion cedis a year. How much money did we go to the IMF for? Now, the time we lose in traffic accounts for 71% of that bill. Fuel waste is 10%, and stress-linked productivity losses is about 18%. The study modeled real corridors like the Medina 237 military hospital and then scaled nationwide. Even more sobering is the fact that idling in traffic alone has an estimated 73,000 tons of avoidable CO2 annually, and you know what that means for the environment. Now, if this sounds like an Accra problem, it is not. Actually, it runs across Africa. The World Bank and research institutions have mapped a consistent pattern. Congestion and high transport costs keep pushing down urban incomes and national growth because you spend so much money, as we heard repeatedly, on transport. Indeed, classic work from Africa Infrastructure Country Diagnostics show that urban transport constraints are systemic across sub-Saharan Africa, hindering competitiveness. Even more worrying, economists such as Adam Strogard found that changes in transport costs measurably shift city incomes, which shows that the price of moving people and goods is a first-order driver of prosperity. And my mother will speak to that. She speaks yesterday about the fact that, yes, it's true, she's paying a lot less for fuel, and she's very excited about that. But then there are other costs that are coming up. And so till we deal with the complete ecosystem, we definitely are not going to enjoy the full benefits of the upsize the economy is pushing now. And the penalty is big. Global analysis suggests that congestion can shave off 2 to 4% of the national GDP. Winston, to the point you made. And that's before we add the health costs of air pollution and the land we surrender to parking rather than productive use. As McKinsey has argued for a decade, urban mobility is often the difference between cities that power growth and those that stall it. Distinguished guests, Ghana is already a majority urban country, which is the majority of our population are in urban and peri-urban areas. The World Bank projects that our urban share will continue growing up, yet our core systems, land use, public transport, governance, traffic management, has not kept pace. The World Bank Urban Mobility Partnership for Africa, SSATP, has bluntly indicated that too many African cities, ours included, combine poor urban planning with inadequate transport services and weak institutional capacity. That is the perfect recipe for the great lot we've experienced recently. And to the tales we often don't tell ourselves enough, the cautionary tales. Our Ayalolo initiative, brilliant idea, conceived as an urban bus rapid transit system, was meant to be the spine of mass transport and mass transit in Accra. An initial investment of $95 million was strong, but as has been the case on yet too many occasions, implementation faltered. Dedicated lanes were never fully materialized, standards slipped, rapid became very slow, and the system now competes in mixed traffic with trotros. The lesson is that BRT can work in Ghana, but it will only work with governance discipline, with the right operating enforcement, and with the right mindset. Now, colleagues, friends here, let me just go back the memory lane again. Stanbic's relationship with Graphic has been very long. Preparing for today, I found 2 articles. One in 2007, I believe it was in September. It was in October the 19th of 2007. And Stanbic Bank at that time had committed a revolving fund of $50 million to change the face of transportation in Ghana. Now, the first tranche of that loan went to GPRTU, and Stanbic Bank financed 200 brand new urban buses. Indeed, those buses till date are called Stanbic buses. The whole idea was that by continuously ensuring a very efficient revolving fund, over a 10-year period, would have only brand new buses operating because 80% of the transport infrastructure then was controlled by GPRTU. Ask me what happened. That fund collapsed. It collapsed because we had difficult challenges in the partnership, primarily due to the nature of how some of us behave when we assess funds. And so the Ghanaian trust deficit kicked in. That fund collapsed. If that fund was still operating, I dare say this conversation could have been different. Just to wrap up, The economic case is overwhelming. It's been said that congestion is a public transport passenger problem. That cannot be the case. In reality, transport drivers pay heavily in wasted fuel as well as in wear and tear, in frayed nerves that shave the edge of their performance, and the opportunity cost of 2 hours on the road when they should be closing deals, they should be going back and forth and making more money. And so, in truth, there is a big price that the drivers themselves have to pay. McKinsey's mobility work shows that when a city reaches a tipping point with a reliable mass transit system, walkable last miles, and viable shared mobility, even high-income commuters shift mode, not because they can't afford the drive, but because time certainly is the ultimate luxury. Imagine a world where a student of Achimota School, you can change that with Prempeh College, working as the CEO of Africa's largest bank by assets, Stanbic Bank, takes a 22-minute express bus in a dedicated lane, steps off the shaded side grid, and walks only 5 minutes to the office because it is faster than driving and parking. This is not utopian. It's the daily logic of successful cities. And let me add, that it's even healthier. It reduces our health costs as a nation. And with a healthy people, you are likely to have a wealthy nation. See, it is possible. Not the political version. And it happened when I was a kid. Why shouldn't it happen again? After all these decades as a country, we should be moving forward. Which Ghana would we choose? I choose one where commute no longer subtracts from our GDP, our health, or our humility. That's the reason why we need to reset boldly, prudently, and now. I end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malko. This is a very, very insightful speech. So much details he put out, and this spells the fact that transportation is really critical for national development. This may not make much sense to a lot of people, but if you stay like around Kenya, Kaswa, Tema, some part of Tema, some part of a shaman, and you spend someone is telling me Medina, you spend 3 hours every morning just in traffic. The car is not moving, it's not coming, and you get to the office and your boss tells you to finish a task within 3 hours, you understand that the world has really come to an end. So here at the Graphic Business Breakfast Meeting, the program is kindly partnered by the Labadi Beach Hotel, Graphic Plus. So if you're here and you see on your tables right now, you can see some graphic business on your table. You can open it right now as well. You can see there are some forms for you to fill to subscribe daily for online. They can send you daily graphic news. Sometimes people don't have the time to go and stand by the graphic stands. So this time around, everything is digital. They'll send it to you right on your phone. I get mine every morning, so I know what is happening because graphic always gives you authentic information. We're also live on Facebook. We're live on John News channel and the Facebook page of Stanbic Bank and also Daily Graphic Ghana. You can subscribe to follow their pages and stay updated on today's conversation. Before I call my next opening remarks, I'd like to acknowledge the presence here with us, the board chair of the Labadi Beach Hotel in the person of Kelvin Katano. If you're here, please, let's give us a wave. Please, a round of applause for him, sir. Trust me, Labadi Beach Hotel is an amazing hotel. They've been winning the best hospitality service, the best hotel in hospitality consistently. I think this is the 3rd consecutive time, and they keep always lifting the bar when it comes to service. So congratulations to Labadi Beach Hotel. And let's welcome our next speaker to give us the opening remarks as well, in the person of Mr. Theophilus Yate, the editor of Graphic Communications Group. Please, a round of applause. Help me welcome Mr. Yate.
Thank you, Winston. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and friends and family here, friends of Graphic and family of Graphic, but some of you have been reading Graphic for God knows how many years. Our relationship with Stanbic, as far as this platform is concerned, it's been over several years, and we thought it wise that every quarter of the year we meet and we discuss very important national issues that you normally are on the back burner, not on the front burner. So we decided today that we'll discuss something about public transport. Public transport because it affects everyone here. I don't think there's anybody in this room who has never used a public transport before. When Mr. Fejenu was talking about picking the bus, I remembered very well, I was at age 8, 9 thereabout. We were living in Kolegono. Kolegono is near Choco. If you don't know, please see me after the program. I'll give you better direction. And I will pick the bus, the OSA, we call it OSA, Omni Bus Services Authority. We'll pick it to Opera Square, the terminal, then we'll walk to the, there was a cinema there, but we will not go there because those times it was 12 midday. I'm not those who went to the cinema. I went to the Central Library, the Children's Library, to read. So somebody said, O'Malley, I don't understand O'Malley. And that was how our journey with public transport started, and it has been with Trotro and all that. And every year, the issue about public transport comes up because in other parts of the world, it's handled by the state or the municipal assemblies or whatever you want to call it. But in Ghana, it's the private sector that operates, and for them, the profit motive is always the overriding goal. So we are having this discussion. It affects us because some of our colleagues get to work very late because they have to stand by the roadside for over an hour. Now Accra has stretched beyond. In fact, Accra is now in Eastern region, so and in Central region. So when you are coming to Accra, the Central district, it becomes a problem. And because of that, we lose a lot of man hours. Productivity is low. We don't maximize our whatever we put in because by the time we even get to work, we are tired. So we believe that today is important we have discussion, and we've brought all these fine brains here, all of you here, so that we have a political discussion, a very frank discussion about what we need to do and the way forward. I believe that all of you have something to share, and on behalf of Graphic and Stanbic, I welcome you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Theophilus Yate. Thank you very much. Indeed, there's so much to discuss this very morning. Before I introduce my panelists, I'd like to see by hand how many of us spend at least 30 minutes in traffic, or let's say 1 hour in traffic before you get to work. Even coming here this morning. How many of us? 2 hours. That is serious. That is literally productivity lost. That is literally us taking time away from our family time. That is literally all of us losing money or spending money because we keep burning for day in and day out. This is a serious challenge, and it means a lot to us. There are instances, especially if you have a private car, your challenge is a bit okay, but this information is important to you as well. In instances where the car decides to show you pepper, you're starting your engine, is not starting that morning, you'll be forced to either use Uber or go and join the queue somewhere to get home. That is when you feel the reality of everyday commuter trying to get to work or make ends meet. And this is important for us to have this conversation this morning as we are all gathered here getting ready. I would like to acknowledge some representative from the House of Parliament. We are privileged to have here with us the members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Transport. They are here with us this morning. Please, can you show us by hand so that we acknowledge all of you with a round of applause? Please, a round of applause for them, please. Members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Transport. Wonderful, wonderful. And we want to begin with our panel conversation. And I'd like to welcome our speakers to join us. Firstly, we have the Associate Professor at the University of Education, Winneba, Professor Enoch Sam. Please help me welcome me with a round of applause. Professor Enoch Sam is joining me as my first panelist. Also, the Head of Financial Advisory and Equity Capital Market and Corporate and Investment Banking at Stanbic Bank, Isaac Simpson, is also joining us. We will soon be joined by the General Secretary of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Godfred Abubri. But before then, we are also privileged to have a representative of the Transport Ministry in the person of Eric Tete Addison. He is representing the Deputy Minister for Transport, Honorable Dorcas Afotofe. So please a round of applause for Mr. Eric Addison. Yes, today's conversation is going to be quite elaborate. Surely you can write down your questions and when you get to the Q&A session. Okay, yes, please. All right. Q&A session, we'll be touching on key development, and if you also have any suggestion in terms of what you believe can best be done to ensure we have well-structured road sector, then we can say indeed we are. Always we begin with a political aspect, which is basically the representative from the road ministry. I'd like to begin first of all with Mr. Eric Tete Addison. First of all, is transport reform politically difficult but economically unavoidable? I'd like to begin with you. Please, can you pass over the microphone to him?
Thank you very much. And my name is Eric Tete Addison, not Tete. Tete means that you are arrogating me to be the first male born. Great. But I am a second, so I am Tete. So the Tete Addison is a compound name, my name and that of my father. Yeah, so like you did indicate, I am here to represent the Deputy Minister, and most of the things I will be saying were things she put in my mouth. But as and when I felt that I need to massage it, I will do that. So you just asked, transport. Can you come again with your question, please?
Is transport reform politically difficult but economically unavoidable?
Yeah, so if you look across the world, every reform is a difficult engagement. Because human as we are, change which is unavoidable is something that we all run away from. So anytime there's going to be a change, we always want to run away from it. And so you observe that when we put structures in place to engage an activity to transform or reform a situation, we always fight against it. Everyone will fight against it because we believe that I'm not benefiting from it. It is only those who feel that they have something that they are getting out of it that will stand for it. And how is it going to affect us economically? People across the globe, everybody is interested in the benefits that will accrue to him. When we look at transport reforms, Definitely, there may be people in the space that the old status quo, they will be benefiting. And the moment you are trying to realign that status quo so that everybody will benefit, it becomes a challenge to them. And therefore, they will rise and fight it. And note that this is where the economic issues come up. The moment you fight against change, it means that you are preventing something that is going to transform the system and make it better. And once you are unable to make it better, it is going to cost you. If you look at the transport system as a whole, it is one of the key elements in the economy of Ghana. It is the conduit that sustains the socio-economic development of the nation. It is an enabler because everywhere transport infrastructure or services leads to, you see that there's growth and development. Now, but unfortunately, the most important things in life, they are those things too that kills us. If you look at the heart, it is one of the key organs in the human body. But if you look at death rate in the world, heart-related deaths, if not the number one, then it's going to be number two. Why do we allow that? It's because we've not been able to sit down properly and calculate the economic cost so that we'll be able to put in structures that will address them. Reforms are very essential, and they are costly because of what? The resistance that comes with it. And anytime we resist this, it means that we are digging our graves so that we go and lie in and bury ourselves. Look, we are sitting here, and today we are going to talk about transport issues. All of us seated here, it is the same issues we know that we'll be talking about. It is only the English language that will change or modify it. And all of us here, seated here, we know all the challenges that Ghana's transport system is bedeviled with. We also know all the solutions that can be put forth to address this. Unfortunately, how to put this together and run it is the issue. And we can only do this when there is reform. But in reforming, what are the key things? We are looking at the political circles, but who are the political people? We all seated here, we are politicians, but we try to deceive ourselves. What do we do? Politics is only to develop policies. What does policy do? Policy is to solve a problem. And what are the problems? The problems are the things that we find difficult to live with. And so, until we are able to put in place things that will help us to remove these things on the way, we will continue to do, but it will continue to cost us.
I'll come back to you to understand what the ministry is currently working on for us to understand the reality of the new phase in terms of the policy direction. Because you say it's politics and it's about all of us, but we have people who are in charge of ensuring whatever policy we have are implemented. So I'll come back to you since you are also a representative of the ministry. You have inside information to that effect. I would like to speak to Professor Sam as well to get his analysis of assessment of Ghana's transport structure. Where did we fall off the wheel? Because it appeared, listening to Mr. Enoch, listening to Mr. Mauko, his narration of the past, how we were well organized. Where did we fall off? We should have been in a place where getting access to train, railways, sea transport, all of them synchronized to ensure we have comfortable living and movement. Where did we fall off?
Thank you, brother. My brother's session really points or gives synopsis of where we have fallen off. Also, what we realize that all of us, one way or the other, want to be comfortable, whatever we do, right? So, with that in mind, we project this to wherever we go. Population is increasing, and as population is increasing, a whole lot of things are also, gaining momentum. And so planning should be able to cater for all all of these, right, we might have fallen off at a point where we failed to see population dynamics and what brings on board, right? So until we get that, we'll continue to be in this same position. Interestingly, let this in preparation for this, and also maybe because also that is my field, I took a glance at the national transport policy, right? And in the problems are outlined, the solutions are also there, and like my mentioned, implement is where we are lacking, right? We know what to do, and we have best practices, best examples from all over. Before we got here, I engaged in an informal discussion with him on what can be done, taking cues from what our brothers and sisters are doing. By that I mean other African countries. And we see, I mentioned the case of Cape Town and how well structured the public transport system is. Right. This is not out of Africa. This is within Africa. Right. And it's something context specific, like you will say. But these should inspire ideas for us to move forward, knowing what our problems are and where we are going. So again, I want to point out to the national transport policy on the way forward.
Before I come to Mr. Isaac, you said I mostly personally don't like assuming things, especially when it comes to you thinking somebody knows something, yeah, and later finding out that all this while they are seeing you as a source of information. You said, you highlighted the fact that we know the problems. What are the problems? Apart from the fact that we fail to plan due to increasing population, which is not met. Currently, the little infrastructure we have in our towns and cities are under pressure. Yeah. The roads are narrower compared to 5 years ago. Nothing has changed. The buildings keep rising, high-rise buildings everywhere. Yeah. The number of population moving to one direction keep increasing because every activity of economic benefit are centered in the capitals. Yeah. What are we feeling now?
Right. So again, we can look at the issue of land use planning, vis-a-vis transport planning. This is another area we are failing. We mostly focus on one, and then the other becomes an afterthought. Right. Both should go together. And this policy I mentioned also fingered out. By land use planning, we'll be able to even moderate how many people get to the center. Right. We call something proximity, miss land use, higher density. We could plan such that people can satisfy their need within an enclave without the need to move further distances. Right. So basically, if I talk about problems beyond what you've said and beyond what we saw on the screen, this is what I'm adding.
Thank you very much. Now, I want to get from the financial perspective, which is why Isaac Simpson, the head of financial advisory at Stanbic Bank, is here to give us insight. Now, from the capital market perspective, what innovative financing structures can Ghana deploy to fund large-scale urban transport reforms without overburdening the public debt?
Thank you. So, I think just piggybacking off of what Prof said, right? How we at Stanbic Bank think about this is we see it as an ecosystem approach. So we are not just looking at urban transport. You know, first we begin to think about what the problem is. Is the problem actually population growth? Is it urbanization? Because do we see this more here in Accra than, let's say, in Avrongo? Is the problem the fact that we grew faster than our current infrastructure? You know, so when you think about this, a lot of things come to mind. One, do we need to add on more assets, more infrastructure, more roads? Do we need to widen our roads? Do we need to add buses? Do we need to add vehicles, right? Or do we need to generally move cities? You know, so if you do like affordable housing somewhere, are you just doing the housing? Are you not doing maybe places where you can have commercial areas where, let's say, a Stanbic Bank can rent a place? People don't need to drive all the way from, let's say, Afienya to Accra to come and work. So this is how we think about everything, right? And then thinking about it that way, there are many ways we can finance. Let me give you an example in terms of like infrastructure. In Abidjan, for example, there was this bridge that they constructed, right? And then initially it used to take them about an hour, 30 minutes from one point to another point. When they constructed the bridge alone, it took them now 15 minutes, right? That's significant in terms of time and productivity. But then you ask yourself this question. Now today, since they constructed it, the time to move between those two areas has now risen to 30 minutes from the 15 minutes when it was constructed, right? So that means there's clearly a problem. We are not really monitoring. So how we think about it is, one, we can give term loans, but you don't just use term loans. Term loans are like bank debt. When we are using bank debt is sometimes more expensive. Even though now the rates are coming down, bank debt is expensive. So what we do is that we then combine it with sometimes export credit agencies giving lower loans. 3, we also do infrastructure bonds, right? And so I think 2 years ago or a year ago, we wrote an article, we published an article where we're speaking about infrastructure bonds. So infrastructure bonds, that is what currently the government is looking to do. We have a lot of pension assets in Ghana. There's a lot of pension fund money which can be allocated to infrastructure assets, right? And when I say infrastructure, I don't just mean road. I mean even the urban transport, right? Then we also have situations where we can actually raise equity capital. So equity capital either from the public market or either from private equity funds. There are a lot of funds, climate-driven funds, who are looking to fund transport assets. So let me give you another example. So recently we even financed a group that does EV cars, right? So they've partnered with some of the Yangos and whatnot to bring EV cars, right? This is climate friendly, and then also the financing is very sustainable, right? And so there are so many various ways that we can finance these things. But then there are about 3 things you need to look at when you're financing these things. One is the revenue visibility. How are we able to see revenue, you know? And how to see revenue is this. Can we have even, let's say, the transport ministry spearhead them creating an app that does transport fares, right? Makes transport fares very, very visible across everybody. If I pick my phone today and I click on it, I know how much it will cost me, right? Fuel has gone up. I know the increment in my transport fare directly from my phone.
Are you sure that is a workable? Because once you get there, the transport operator will tell you, either you pay or you stand there.
Exactly. But this is regulatory. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? So once it's regulatory, nobody can skirt it. If we all also come and then we see that this is the fare we are supposed to pay and we don't pick your bus, that also goes against you. Mm-hmm. You understand? Until we move, or we have that political will and then the private capital will to move and then solve this problem, it will still be the same thing in that vicious cycle.
Amazing. I'll come back still on the financing bit and how economic replication is being felt, what was lost in terms of quantifying GDP, in terms of hindrances in movement. Now, I want to come back to Mr. Tete Addison. Interesting enough, the whole conversation here is resetting the Ghana urban transport system. Everywhere you pass, we keep hearing governments, we are resetting this, to the extent that even coconut sellers are saying, reset, you buy one, get one free. Everywhere you pass, there's reset. What is the ministry working on that commuters who are watching us right now, business people who are watching us right now, those who understand that if productivity in terms of transportation is enhanced, they can increase the operation. What is the ministry resetting as of now? Apart from last month where they introduced some buses on the roads to help commuters, that is what people have said they have only seen. But what are you doing behind the scenes that we are saying there's a holistic reset?
So can you permit me to make a contribution to
what briefly and come to your reset here.
You know, he mentioned land use and transport planning. Yes. And these two things, if you miss them, you have missed the whole system. Note that transport, the system as we see, is made up of three key components. We have the infrastructure with its supporting infrastructure. We have the craft, which is the carrier. And then we have the load, which is made up of the cargo and the persons. Now, if you look at our modern development trend, we go and develop the place and we expect these social services to follow. And note also that we have earlier indicated that transport is an enabler. And it is the key that brings social cohesion. So if we are not able to plan our land use and then the development of transport infrastructure, we have missed it. And that's where the various challenges that we are talking about come from. You are building and you go and build, they sell the land, they build anyhow, and know that the people will need to commute from that point to where the services are provided. One thing we must note is that transport is a derived demand. You don't demand transport for its own sake. This morning when you were coming, you sat in your car, you took the car, not because the car is beautiful but it is because you want that car to provide something for you. It is this knowledge you are coming to enjoy here that caused you to sit in that car to come here. So transport is a derived demand. If you want to go to the hospital, it is not because of the car, but it is because of the health you want to derive that the transport have to take you there. So if we are planning the land use and we don't integrate the transport planning processes into it, then we have challenges. So you are developing a community and you have not planned how transport will be served in that community, how the malls will come in there, how hospitals and other things. So every time you want to move from that community to another area to enjoy that service, how do you go? You go by transport. And because unfortunately we are unable to develop the infrastructure, it creates problem for our movement. And that is one key that we as people we need to look at. And then he also mentioned the financing aspect. You see, I think Malcolm mentioned the Ayalolo as one of the best models we could have emulated. He also mentioned the Cape Town thing. Look, if you go to Lagos, they have the Lamata. Are you okay with that? They started that when even long after we have even initiated the BLT things in Ghana here. But what are it is the resistance to reform that we talked about earlier that has brought us where we are today. Unfortunately, we miss our priorities. So, he mentioned some amount that was voted for that project. How do you get crafts without infrastructure?
Great. So, still now, on your research, which is very important to us.
Okay, so now you mentioned that the only visible thing Ghanaians have seen so far is the provision of extra buses to ameliorate the suffering of the commuters when
we want to understand more, basically. So what else is the ministry doing that many have seen or many have not seen in terms of policy, in terms of investment? Well, not quite long ago, we saw the deputy minister in the country showing us pictures of new buses that are expected to hit the road soon. And all of these we've seen, but one thing that we want to understand is what is the ministry working on, basically?
Okay, so I'll begin from this perspective.
Yeah.
You see, unfortunately for us as a country, our transport system does not have one policy direction. Today, you see Ministry of Transport, you see Ministry of Railway, you see Ministry of Roads and Highways, you see Ministry of Aviation. And each of them want to focus on their modal priorities. But know that transport should be complementing and not competing. And anytime you create that and the synergy is not there, you will not be able to reset. Today, as we sit there, even in America, they have only one institution responsible for transport. You go to UK, the same. Until last year, we had about 4 different ministries with 4 different policy directions in the same sector. How do you synergize this and then make it better? Today, we are fortunate that it has been reduced to 2. And these 2, one is looking at road transport infrastructure and its furniture. And then the other is looking at all other modes of transport, both infrastructure and service provision. So it makes policy cohesion and harmonization very difficult. Because if the Ministry of Transport, which is responsible for transport services, we are making policies, the infrastructure that is supposed to serve these policies or deliver these services is also in somebody's purview. Are you okay with that? And so the focus and priority of that is different from your focus and your priority. Difficult to integrate it so that you'll be able to harmonize and get the right result. Currently, we've been trying to, they will tell you we are collaborating, but everybody is hinging on his core function. You cannot come in to my terrain and then come and order me to do. So it's getting to be difficult. But currently, as a transport ministry, we are trying to review the regulations that set out the provision of some of these services. And once we are able to set these things right, the implementation is what will be visible and physical to people to see. The processes are in place, but until we are able to get the whole thing on the table and then we begin to implement, whatever we want to reset is going to be a challenge for us.
So everything is still in the pipeline, as politicians will say.
Politicians will say it is in the pipeline, but it is on the table. It has moved from the pipeline to the table.
All right. So we will hear much, hopefully, during the State of the Nation's address this coming Friday. I hope the President will highlight some of the key developments, because Ghanaians are waiting. When we talk about transport, it's a very critical aspect of everyday life, not just for individuals, for businesses and all. Before I come to Prof, I want to get Isaac's thought on a very important question, which is basically, how does inefficiency in Ghana's urban transport system constrain productivity, GDP growth, and private sector competitiveness? And what is the economic cost if we fail to do a structured transport system?
So I think we've spoken more than enough on this this morning. From when Malcolm read his opening remarks, the reports he quoted from said we lose close to 4.5 billion cedis every year, and that figure grows in the economic cost. One thing I've noticed is when people see opportunity cost, because they cannot see it physically, they cannot feel the amount physically, they don't see why there should be change, right? But then if you are spending 4.5 billion, or there is an opportunity cost of 4.5 billion cedis every year, this could have been channeled into something very productive. Why don't we put together an estimate of how this thing is going to be solved, and then compare it to how much the opportunity cost is, and then see how we can go about it. In terms of productivity, I'm sure that we all know this. This is not something just I know. Everybody knows this. If you spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours in traffic, which you could have spent doing something better, right, or something more productive, obviously, it's some of the costs that we are going to look at. And in terms of the health costs also, the stress, all of those things, if we are able to quantify that, you see that we spend maybe north of 4.5 billion, maybe close to 10 billion, right, in just this challenge that we see. So the costs are there, and we can all see it, but it's not top of mind. So I think why we are doing this is to just get it to top of mind.
All right. Before we'll come back to the Q&A session very soon. Before that, let me get Prof. Sam. It's interesting to note that We keep talking about population increase. We keep talking about inefficient planning, lack of planning. We keep talking about all this, yet every year, these institutions who are in charge of it have budgetary allocations, and every political systems and structures keep changing. The personality keeps changing, yet the budget don't change. I want to understand from you going forward in terms of building a nation. We keep comparing ourselves to other nations as well. For how long are we going to be finding ourselves in that situation? And in terms of resetting, where should we prioritize? Is it just the road transport? Which other available means of transportation do you foresee potential that can be transformed?
Anyway, I thought this would have gone to Dr. Yeah, but
that should have come to.
It should surely do.
Yeah, the government man. Yeah, we should implement an integrated transport system. We know, of course, in Ghana, we focus so much on the road transport, right, to the detriment of others. We have the rail and other. These are places we should also be banking our hopes, right, so that we can get the best of it. But what we transport, you go to other countries, some of the goods we transport on the road naturally shouldn't be on the road. Some are even hazardous to be on the road, right? So if we have other modes, other avenues, those could go on there like the rail, whilst we free the road space for passenger commuting, right? So in terms of budgeting, and in the era of resetting, we should really understand what is happening. First, what is our priority? What are we seeking to achieve? And then we plan. As somebody from academia, I will always push for data and science. And that is what we feel in this country. Elsewhere, for instance, I schooled in Belgium, and in there, you have the private sector industries bringing resources to the university and telling them, this is the problem we see. What can you do for us? Give us data, give us research, so that we'll be able to solve that. You can't solve problems without understanding what the root causes are, right? And so that is something the research agenda should also focus on. Let's try to understand our people. We are unique individuals. What I like, my aspirations, expectations, and perceptions in terms of mobility, moving from one place to the other, will be different from yours and hers. So the collective, when we get all of this and bring it together, we have an aggregate we can work on, right? So that should also be.
Indeed, Ghana needs an integrated transport system. We're still live here at the Labadi Beach Hotel, still discussing the need for reset in the urban transport system in Ghana. We are not just focusing on Accra. Don't forget, Ghana is a huge with several municipality communities and towns and cities interconnected. Some have good roads, some terrible roads. Some roads are even hazardous to health in terms of transporting people from their homes to the hospital, in terms of transporting food products from the hinterlands to the mainlands. And these are structural defects that we've been experiencing, not just in Ghana, but even globally. But it appears that Ghana, our situations, we see it face to face. A lady told me every week she changed shocks because the road alone is a serious problem. She keeps bumping here and the mechanic is the one always making the money. Every day, madam, what shocks are saying. So it just tells you that not many people are really spending much more on their vehicles because of bad roads, and accessibility is a key challenge. It's now time for us to have the Q&A session. So if you have any question concerning or even suggestion or opinion that is critical to enhance this conversation, you may lift up your hands and the microphone will be brought to you. And you mention your name, the institution you represent, and you go one question at a time.
Chief, can I add on 1 minute to what he said?
All right. Before the first question, let's take the brief one. Okay, just 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you were inquiring what other modes can we develop to support this. And you also mentioned budgets. Even in the past, when the ministries were divided into those smaller ministries, if you look at the budget allocation, you will see that the road transport alone takes about 80% of total budget allocation for the entire transport sector. Why? Because we assume that the road transport sector, subsector, is a dominant mode of transport, where everybody, statistics is showing about 97% of people are moved by road than the other modes. Now, because we have focused on only this, and then investments in the other modes of transport are limited, that's how come every day we find ourselves in this situation. Imagine that you develop a Tema coastal transport from Tema to maybe Takoradi. It will move about 60% of people on this Kaswa, whatever road to Takoradi, onto the sea to be moved. Look, we transport fuel, other cargoes on our route from north to south, from south to north. Meanwhile, the Volta Lake is there, which could have taken this at a cheaper cost. Unfortunately, our focus has been only on road transports, and then every investment, look, everyone that comes is going to road. Every money every loan government takes is going to road. And today, look at the rail. In the 60s, in the 70s, rail's market share in the transport sector was bigger than that of road transport. So you observe that your fathers and your grandfathers, every day they talk about the rail transport. Today, our children don't even know what rail is. They don't know what rail is. Our children don't know what water transport is. Meanwhile, these are the key, cheaper mode of moving goods from one point to another.
So are we experiencing some research from that?
Yes, so currently we have engaged a consultant to look at a feasibility. That's why I told you that it is on the table. A feasibility study on the Tema to Takoradi, coastal avenue. And once that feasibility study is completed, and it's come that it is feasible that we can do coastal transportation, we are going to engage the private sector to come in there, develop the infrastructure and then the craft, provide the service, and you will notice that most of the people who are currently using the road infrastructure will then move to that area, and there will be a balance. And once there's balance, you will notice that the pressure on the road will reduce.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric Teche, for that insight. We now take the Q&A questions. So the person with the first microphone, please, your name. If you can please stand briefly for us because of the cameras.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One at a time.
Please, I'm Isaac Iso from GPRTU. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My question is, statistically, the private sector controls about 90% of the public transport. But when allocations are being made, they only focus on the public transport. Meanwhile, when we meet the transport ministry, and there is something like adjustment of fares and other things, they always, what is called, determine the percentage that the adjustments must take. Meanwhile, the components that goes to run this private transport is very huge. So my question is, why is it that the government does not allocate some of those funds to the private transport organizations?
I will thank you very much for your question. But before we come to the answer, I would like to also understand from you, if that allocation happens, What will we be using the funds for?
Yes. Fortunately, Stanbic Bank is the what's called logo for this meeting. And at a point in time, they supplied us with some buses, and it helped us very, very significantly. So therefore, when we get such funds, we can increase our buses. If you go to what is called Carnation Market, and you see the kind of buses that commuters use, yeah, it's regrettable. Some of the buses are about 40 years. The Tata buses and all those Willowbrook are still on the road. So you can see that those things must if there is resetting, that place too must be resetted.
All right, thank you. We'll come to your response as well. So fund allocation to GPR to you. I've heard your president also calling for that when you met the road minister earlier this year. Next question, please. The person, yes.
My name is Valentin Mensah. Please permit me to sit.
No problem.
Yes. My question will be to Dr.
Please put the microphone. Yes.
My question is to, or questions are to Dr.
Please, one question at a time.
Tete Addison. Yes, the professor talked about data. I've always asked questions on whether the ministry has the statistics on the number of broken down tracks in the middle of our road. Driving from Adringano to the venue today, I counted about 5 in the middle of our road. When you drive from Accra to Kumasi, you count not less than 50. In January, I drove from Abidjan to Accra. From the border from Abidjan to the border, I didn't see a single broken down vehicle in the middle of the road. As soon as I crossed the border from Elubo to Takrady and Takrady to Accra, I could count more than 100. So my question is whether the ministry is taking or recorded the number of broken down tracks in the middle of the road. As we say, what is measured is managed. If you do not have the data and the inconvenience and the congestion it causes, we are always talking about road construction. But then you will construct the roads. If you go to Jowulu traffic lights at the moment, you will see the overloaded trucks occupying the 4 lanes and all the vehicles behind them. Who is managing that? Is that the Ministry of Transport or the Ministry of Roads? We always hear about the Minister of Transport. I've never heard about Minister of Roads. I've never heard about the Minister of Transport. Is it because to us we are more interested in the infrastructure rather than the usage? The usage is very, very important. Since 2017, we're talking about towing. We had a towing policy which had been nearly implemented, but because it was not well conceived, there was a public outcry and it was withdrawn.
All right.
For more than 9 years, even GPRTU talked about introducing its own towing policy for its members.
Please, the microphone.
That has still not materialized. So we should rather think about the usage of our roads to avoid congestion, and then rather than always thinking about the infrastructure.
Thank you very much.
Of course, we don't have adequate infrastructure, but what we have, let's use it efficiently.
Very brilliant question there. These are very, very solid observation you make there. The fact that everywhere you pass, these broken down vehicles, most accidents occur because of them, and this is a very serious concern. I'm sure the rep from the Transport Ministry is here with us to give us that response. I'll take one question before we come to the first session of questions. All right, the next one.
Yeah,
the one with the microphone.
I have it here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Wahini Asante. I study government policy, and I'm a development economist. I want us to pay attention to something here. A lot of the conversations that we are having, a lot of things we are discussing, fine, it's urban infrastructure, urban transport, but one important thing is development planning. And I'm speaking as an economist and a policy analyst. I had the privilege of sitting on Environment and Infrastructure Committee of the Ghana Vision 2057 and reviewed Ghana's development trajectory from Gegesbeck colonial administration to Nkrumah, Nkrumah to Buzia, Buzia to Achampon, Achampon to the PNDC and President Kufuor. In fact, President Kufuor created a whole ministry for beautification as a result of some of these problems. And I can tell you on the fact that one of our problems is overpopulation of the city. Accra as an urban infrastructure, we should get it that it is overpopulated. And if you look at the land size, Accra is the smallest of all our cities, and the space that the number of people it can contain should be less than 2 million. So we've missed it right there. The other thing that we need to look at is restructuring the city. I'm sharing this because you mentioned Q&A, comment or opinion, and so I'm adding my comment to the conversation. If I want to ask a question based on the stuff I've been exposed to, it will be a political question.
So please make it brief.
Thank you. And that is my conclusion. All the conversations we've had here, what we have to achieve, the powers lies in the politician. Why am I saying that? It lies in the politician because we've had a very solid conversation. He is a civil servant. And it might really get to a minister before it gets to cabinet. It is only the politician that can say that we need a new city. Accra and Kumasi alone, Takrade, cannot accommodate the rapid urbanization of this country. So we need to check between Accra, Koforidua, Ekuapem is there. How can we build a city that can depopulate the Accra city and connect a rail so that you can move from Ekuapem or Ekropong, come to work and go back less than 30 minutes? And that is what I think. And based on the work I've had the privilege to work with the National Development Planning Commission, if politicians take it serious, we can change the
Thank you very much. I'll take one last one and take the questions and come back to the second set of questions.
My name, I have the mic, sir.
Please, can we see you because of the camera position?
I'm here.
Okay.
My name is Sifas Owusu-Kobi. I work with Kilimanjaro Terminals, and I am a transporter. I want to say something, and I'm not being emotional. I want to be very, very straight. I am quite, I would say, very disappointed in the transport rep from the Ministry of Transport. And I say that because, you see, you gave an opportunity to tell us what is on the table. And as far as I can clearly, I'm picking notes. He couldn't give us clearly what he has on the table. My question is this. You see, Malco in the introduction mentioned something that is of importance. It's imperative. He came to see a Ghana where a student could be picked from a point with a timetable, and he knows when he can get there and then come back. He also reiterated that you also mentioned that when the private sector was giving funds from Stanbic Bank to improve our transport infrastructure, I think 20 years or 15 years ago, 15 million, what was it, US dollars or Ghana cedis? They regret doing that because it went bad. Now, I have a study about the Indian experience. India is populated than us. Delhi is way populated than us. They manage the transport efficiently. What have they done right? So I want to share what they have done right so that we can learn from it.
Please make it brief.
Brief, yes. The state actually controls the transport industry. The state, through the State Transport Corporation, sets fares. GPITU has no right to set fares. The state is supreme. Unfortunately, today marks the 60 years of Nkrumah's overthrow. He's one of the icons I celebrate and a mentor. The state is supreme. Insofar as the state is supreme, the state transport corporations set rail fares. I picked the rail line during the Christmas break when it was congested on this stretch. So it passed through to, from the Accra behind to Tama for 8 cities. Many people don't know that even if you are going to Ashaiman from Accra, you don't need to take public transport. So how visible are we making our rail transport industry? Let the people know that there's a rail transport industry. We have a rail line. But how are we improving upon it? Accra to Nsawam. From Accra to Weja to Kaswa, Central Region. These are things that the Transport Ministry can champion up, improve upon those facilities. Now, what we are saying is that he knows the budgetary allocation for the rail transport industry. Can he tell us what they have planned to push the rail line by the end of this year? These are practical steps I want to see. The Indian experience is something we can learn from. We don't need to go and learn anything from anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take the responses before we come to, so that to keep the conversation flowing. Still, I want to remind viewers, listeners, that Mr. Tete is standing in for the Deputy Road Transport Minister. And so he initially said there are instances where he can give his opinion, and there are instances where the words are put in his mouth. So he gave that caveat before we began. And he also made it understand that there are a lot on the table. And firstly, I'd like to take the first question about the cases where there are a lot of broken down vehicles on the road. What is the ministry doing so far?
Okay, so I think there are two. One is on the private sector controlling the transport space before we come to the broken down vehicles.
Yes.
Let me deal with that. But before then, let me let that gentleman know that, you see, when we meet in a forum to discuss issues, to solve problems, emotions must be taken out of that. He should know that. And let him also know that I came here this morning on somebody's ticket. Whatever was this, whatever the issues were, I am standing in.
So you carry the burden and go and give it to your minister. Yes. So receive the fire for now.
I have received the fire, but I am letting him know that he is being emotional. He shouldn't be emotional.
He's a guardian.
All right, so let's look at it. In the past, if you look at independence, transport services are social services. So it is the responsibility of government to provide transport services. So you observe that after independence, almost all African countries, government was providing transport services across the globe, across the African continent. Rail, road, air, water, and everyone, you see that governments have specific institutions that were dealing with that. Unfortunately, there has been increase in population. Unfortunately, government budget is unable to match these increased populations. And because budget could not match this increased population, government couldn't provide efficiently and effectively the services that it ought to be providing. And therefore, he invited the private sector to participate. And that's how come private sector came into this. Now, when the private sector came in this, he was talking about budget allocation to the private sector. Government cannot provide consolidated fund to private sector. It will only create the environment for you to take advantage or leverage on. Government put in a policy in the past on fleet renewal. He gave them opportunity to source. Government is going to lead the sourcing of funding for them to renew their vehicles. Look at what happened to Stanbic. It is the same thing that happened to that policy. So if government is unable to continue with this because the private sector have failed to do their part of the bargain, they shouldn't be blaming government on that part. Government always create the enabling environment to support, because government know that now they are partners. The private sector is now a partner to the socio-economic development of the nation. Government cannot renege on its responsibility, but it can only continue to create that enabling environment that will attract the private sector to come in. Government cannot vote money, but government can develop policies that will be attractive for the private sector to come in and participate. So that fleet renewal policy that was instituted years ago was to give the private sector the opportunity to leverage on the platform that government has set to get new buses, particularly high occupancy buses, so that the smaller buses which have become a problem in the system today will be wiped off the scene. Look, in the past, Arrow Glass was one of the, and Watonchini, they were one of the prominent public transport in the country. Over the years, they found their level. Nobody sacked them, but they found their level because new mode of moving people from point A to point B came. So government was creating that platform so that private sector will take the opportunity and get the higher occupancy vehicles so that this smaller one will go away. Unfortunately, they renege on their part of the agreement.
Okay, now on the broken down.
Then the broken down vehicles. The Road Safety Authority takes statistics. Today, the Deputy Minister was unable to come because they are meeting the subsidiary committee, legislating committee in Parliament on the regulation, and this one is part of what we have. Whatever failed in the past, it has been repackaged so that these ones will be put on the table. That's why I say it is on the table. Whatever they are going to discuss, I can't know the end, so I cannot be speaking to it. I say it is on the table. Once it comes, then implementation will become part of what we are going to look at. So that is one of the key things that the government is looking at. So the towing of disabled vehicles across all the roads in Ghana, government is going to, Parliament is going to look at the proposed bill today. And if it goes well, they will put it at the plenary, and then when it is passed, the details that are set out in it will then be implemented. And it is going to be that maybe if it is passed from next year, I believe that you may not drive through any road in Ghana and within 30 minutes see a disabled vehicle still seated. Because they are going to put things in place that when your vehicle is disabled, you call, somebody will come and pick it. And if you fail to do that, the Road Safety Authority will come and tow that one at a cost to you. So very soon, those things are going to be addressed. Then the rail issue that he mentioned. You see, today, the Western line that even is the most productive line in Ghana, you know, passenger rail services doesn't pay. So you may not be able to recover your cost. What you rely on is cargo. The Western line is where there are enough cargo. Government began the resuscitating of that line with what? The standard gauge. 2022, this debt restructuring came in. Up to today, the few kilometers that was reconstructed, that is where we remain. Funding has become a challenge.
You mentioned funding. Before I get some few questions, I want to understand from you. You said there's a bill in Parliament. What constitutes the bill? And enlighten us in terms of what is happening, just briefly.
You see, like I did indicate earlier, policy is to solve problem. So at the ministerial level, you identify issues within the sector and you put it into a policy. You seek cabinet approval of that policy. Then because Parliament is the representation of all the people in this country, you go and seek their approval so that once they approve it, it means that they have done that on behalf of the whole country. So whatever we have put in the bill, for instance, one of it is what? The towing of disabled vehicles. The Okada issue is also there. There are many things in that bill. When we are able to go through and Parliament approves it, then it means that we have now gotten the backing of the whole country to begin implementation of those policies that
Thank you very much. Let me get two more questions because time is not on our side. Okay.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Please make it brief.
Please add to listen first. So let me say 2 minutes. My name is.
Please, you have 1 minute.
My name is Tete Kweno, lecturer, Regent University Management. We've talked about so many things, identifying the problems, but to me, I'm not accusing, I'm not on emotional something, but the nation should pick it as a point to improve or take total control of the transport system. We have the gold board, so it means that we can have the transport, this thing also working. We have all the complaints, we have all the allegations, but when you take full control in terms of policy, management, everything, it can be done. We can achieve it. More jobs can be created. We have alternative means of transport. We have all the things that we are looking for, the data, the information, and accusations and leveling. That wouldn't help. The government should take action now. It can be done. The transport, all what we are complaining, can be done. We can, within 6 months. If we want to do it, we can do it. Gold board is an example, a classic example. If it's working, why can't the the transport sector be also handled? So it's not to attack anybody or play politics, but solution is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me take one last one. Okay, last two.
I'm here. My name is Eric Amponsa Boatin.
Okay.
I work with PKF. Since you're asking for 111, just a pick one. I want to find out from Professor Sam Enoch. He made us understand land use and mentioned that we should be able to move. And I want to ask him, what are the things that would make us move from where we are to some other point? Now, to Isaac, he also mentioned that there was a bridge construction, okay, and that brought about productivity and all of that. My question to him is that if infrastructure building is neglected, what will happen? Finally, my friend from the, is it
Stanbic?
one? No, the
Prof.
Enoch.
Okay.
I have a consultant. That work, which he is saying that they need a consultant to do, that work has been done to an extent. The consultant is my friend. So please don't go and pay any more money to anyone, because you see, the whole idea is that we have these small ports all the way from Tema, okay, along the coastline, and they are going to have a place where you can park your car. All you do is to park your car and enjoy. So please, you can take my number. I'll give you the name of the person. Finally, one thing that we have all failed to probably bring on board is loss of lives. And I get so sad because one of my mates died in 2024. He was being brought from Takrady to Accra because there was no bed. The sister managed to get a bed because of traffic. They got to McCarthy Hill, the oxygen got finished, and he died. And so it hurts me so much because his life could have been saved. Thank you.
I'm here.
Let me take one last one.
I'm Prince DeGrant Brempon from Auction Export. I want to ask that how can the problems of bad roads and traffic jams on our roads be solved?
All right, thank you very much. Let's take the responses. Then I'll take possibly two female questions. If there's any female with their hands lifted. I know that I see a lot of males around. Okay. Any female? Okay, I see one hand here.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay. All right.
So my name is Apia Kusi.
One microphone should come here, please.
My name is Apia Kusi Adumakon from CATS International. Recently, when the problem of urban transport challenges arose, government talked about procuring buses. But for where we sit, we think that the solution is not procurement. For example, VIP was set up in 2007. When you go to VIP terminal, you'll find buses that were registered in 2007. But when you go to MMT and ILO, the buses you don't find any bus earlier than 2016. So it's not about buying buses for the public state-run entities, but rather trying to understand the structural issues affecting these public entities. The other issue is that the key problem that we are having with regard to the traffic congestion in Accra has been the way the Local Government Act has structured transport within the various areas. Accra used to be one assembly, AMA. In 1988, we carved Tema from it. Now, Accra has about 24 MMDs. When a car starts from Tema, let's say Afinia, by the time the car gets to Accra, the car would have passed through about 16 assemblies. However, the laws surrounding allocating of transport and route are within each assembly. So each assembly is planning their transport needs in silos. So there's no coordination. So as an organization, we recently proposed that...
Okay, please, we landed it.
Yeah, let me just land.
Yes.
We proposed that government set up Accra City Transport Authority to be able to coordinate the transport needs of Accra. And in that way, we can also bring about the rail transport within the transport authorities of Accra. When you go to London, for example, London has 32 boroughs or assemblies, but yet transport in London is regulated by one entity called Transport for London.
All right, thank you very much.
It's very, very important.
Thank you very much for that insight. Thank you very much. I'll take brief responses. Then, because of time, we are still live with Joy News, and we'll be going off shortly. Okay, but before thank you for any questions. Let me take the responses from Doc. Prof.
Yes. So let me
brief responses.
Touch on it.
Hello, welcome to Joy News Desk, and just passing by is the Stanbic Graphic Business-Stanbic Bank Breakfast Meeting just ending there.